Hey, it's Blough. We're going to be talking about the requirements in HIPAA to do security incident reporting. So what is a security incident? That's a scary word and sounds like maybe I've gone to the ER or something like that. So security incident isn't quite like chopping off your leg with a chainsaw, but it's not terribly different from that either, in the sense that it means something bad happened on your system. So that something bad could be as little as I got a virus, I got some malware, I clicked on something I wasn't supposed to click on, and I'm afraid that somebody has gotten information into our system, all the way to somebody did a very strategic social engineering attack and gained access to our medical records and has been downloading them. So anything from a full-on breach all the way down to just a small issue where somebody gained access to the system temporarily, accidentally, or some malware was loaded. Any of those are really incidents. An incident is something that occurs on your network or on your computers that you didn't want to occur on that. So now it's not necessarily like a hard drive error, probably is not necessarily an incident. This is more of a security related one. So not necessarily physical problems, although could be if it causes issues with your patients. But for the most part, we're going to be talking about some form of a breach. All right, so let's talk about it from a basic standpoint now. You have to record these, and so if there's any issues that happen in your network, you've got to make your people, or make a record of this, make your people aware that this has happened. So for instance, suppose that your computer starts acting all wonky and you call up your IT support company and says, hey, my computer's acting goofy, it's really, really slow. They do some, run some tools on it, they do some analysis that, oh, you've got some viruses on your computer. Now, we do need to record that as an incident. Now, most good computer companies are going to do everything on a ticketing system. We certainly do, and that's part of your documentation trail for your security incident. I would recommend that you could do the same thing. You create a little note and say, okay, we had a virus. Now, we want to ask some questions, because is having a virus on a computer automatically a breach? No, it's not automatically a breach. It could very well be a breach, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So we've got to do a little more investigation. And one of the questions that you've got to ask the IT company that's working with you is, do you think that anybody had remote access to our computer? And do you think that they would have had remote access to the medical records or any patient information? Now, a lot of viruses, the way they work is they actually just call home. They don't let home call in to them. And so they'll call in and say, hey, I've installed myself and I'm ready to send spam out on your behalf. And that's a lot of the virus's payload, is to become little spam bots that send out unsolicited email to people. And it looks like you're sending it, or your computer system anyways is sending it. They also can leverage your computer to do what's known as a denial of service attack. And there's several other things that can be done. All of those don't necessarily expose any data to the hackers. And so even though your computer could be compromised, it may not actually have had any remote access. So not every infection equals a breach. But any infection could lead to a breach, because as they gain access to that, one of the things that they may then do is install some kind of remote access software that would give them the ability to then look on your computer, and they'll be looking for things that they could sell, like patient records or credit cards, or hopefully even access to your online banking or something along that line, where they can get money out of your banking account. So at that point, it's escalated into a breach. Now, regardless of whether it's a breach or whether it's just a simple virus attack, what you've got to do is you've got to keep a record of that, and you need to keep that in your HIPAA folder. So that if there's any issues later on, we didn't think there was a real breach, but we find out a year later that some of the patient information is wound up on the dark web someplace, and somebody notifies you of that, then you can go back to that documentation trail and say, okay, this must be what happened. It must be, we didn't think that there was actually a breach here, but it must be that they gained access and we just weren't aware of it. Now, there's lots of log files and things like that that will allow an IT support company or forensic IT company to look and see if anything was accessed or not. So there's some ways that we can make that determination is fairly safely. But regardless, you've got to have a plan of documenting this and then reporting it to those that are in charge. So the security officer should document it, and then to make sure that the principals in the business are aware of that. So security incident reporting, not optional, required, but it may or may not be a breach.